This is Dr. Rest the Legend. He's back. I'm going to go through part 2, superseding indictment of the Southern Poverty Law Center. I'm going to give you more information. The allegations in the indictment will make a great movie, a Hollywood dark comedy. You will not believe it. A civil rights organization, anti-racist organization, pays white racists to do whatever they normally do. Then the civil rights organization issues reports on the activities of the white racists, and then they solicit vast sums of donor money to indicate they're doing something about white racism. They get rich. They get lots of money. They have lots of assets. You're not going to believe the allegations. Again, these are allegations. So they made a lot of money. They paid these individuals vast sums of money to do whatever they normally do, or even not to do anything. This is the facts are stranger than fiction. Unbelievable. If you can't find any racism, then you invent it, or you buy it. As an attorney, I can imagine their defense to the allegations will be, so what? We didn't do anything wrong. Or the administration is just out to get us. So let me go over the superseding indictment, meaning this is in addition to the original indictment. United States District Court for the Middle District of Alabama, Northern Division. United States of America versus the Southern Poverty Law Center. Superseding indictment issued June 2nd, 2026. This is by a grand jury in the United States District Court, Middle District of Alabama, Northern Division. Okay. I'm reading from the indictment and then I'll make some comments. So according to the SPLC's website, the hate map was the SPLC interactive map that tracks hate and anti-government groups. Within the website, users could toggle between the years 2000 and 2024 to view organizations by state that the SPLC labeled as hate or anti-government groups. Now they also had the Intelligent Report, a magazine-like periodical published by the staff of the Southern Poverty Law Center. So, starting in the 1980s, the SPLC began operating a covert network of individuals who were either associated with violent extremist organizations or who had infiltrated such organizations at the SPLC's direction. These individuals were referred to by some high-level employees within the SPLC as field sources, or Fs. Upon entering into an agreement with an F, or a field source, the SPLC assigned each field source a unique number. The SPLC assigned these numbers in chronological order. The SPLC then paid the field sources with donor money. I might add, a lot of money. The last indictment was $3 million. Now it's up to $4 million. Between in or about 2010 through in or about 2023, SPLC secretly funneled approximately $4.1 million in tax-exempt donor funds to a series of fictitious accounts described hereafter. Again, these field sources, these are individuals who they paid who were allegedly extremists or racists. The general purpose of these fictitious accounts was to pay the field sources who were either leading or affiliated with multiple violent extremist organizations. Field sources used the money donors gave to the SPLC to do the following. This is very interesting. To attend extremist group rallies across the country, host extremist group rallies throughout the country, grow existing chapters of extremist groups, create new chapters of extremist groups, recruit new individuals into extremist groups, make donations to extremist group leaders, purchase materials for cross burnings, purchase materials to make Ku Klux Klan's robes and hoods. That's a funny one. Publish extremist literature used in the recruiting of more members, and pay everyday living expenses, which allowed the field sources to focus on their extremist groups rather than seeking other employment. Certain SPLC employees knew that the field sources used donors' money to actively recruit new members and grow their violent extremist organizations. The SPLC actively led donors to believe that their donations will be used to dismantle violent extremist groups. However, the SPLC hid from donors the fact that a portion of their donated funds was being secretly used to support extremist groups and to fund their violent, racist, and extremist activities. These activities were of the same nature as the activities about which the SPLC published articles on its website and other forums in an effort to obtain donations. During the period alleged in the superseding indictment, that's what I'm reading from, the SPLC reported revenue on their IRS Form 990s. It increased from $38 million in 2010 to $129 million in 2023, an increase of approximately 233%. During the same period of time, SPLC's net assets grew from $238 million in 2010 to almost $787 million in 2023, an increase of approximately 230%. Not bad for their organization. Now, the fictitious entities, the Fs, to secretly funnel donors' money to the field sources, employees of the SPLC, including a person who will become SPLC's chief financial officer, employee number 1, and the person who will become director of the SPLC's intelligence project, employee number 2, among others, opened and or modified a series of bank accounts at bank number 1 and bank number 2 in the name of various fictitious entities, including the following. Number 1, the CIA, no relation to the CIA. Number 2, Fox Photography. Number 3, Northwest Technologies. Number 4, Tech Writers Group. Number 5, Rare Books Warehouse. Number 6, Imagery Inc. Number 7, J&J Electronics. Number 8, Kelly's Marine. And number 9, Turner Personnel. Without disclosing material information to donors about the true use of a portion of their donations, the SPLC secretly used donors' money to fund field sources extremist activities during the period in the superseding indictment. So let's go through some of these individuals. SPLC secretly paid Field Source 9 more than, you ready for this? $1,200,000 in donor money. Well, that's not bad. At the direction of the SPLC, Field Source 9 infiltrated the neo-Nazi organization, the National Alliance, while clandestinely receiving donor money through Tech Writers' bank account. Field Source number 9 was also fundraising for the National Alliance. The money Field Source 9 raised helped the National Alliance carry out its extremist activities. So the SPLC is funding extremist activities. SPLC paid Field Source 9 for over 20 years. However, in just the time period alleged in the superseding indictment, SPLC secretly paid Field Source 9 over $1,200,000 in donor money. Most of this money was secretly funneled to Field Source 9 through Tech Writers' bank account, whatever that is. Employee number 2 oversaw payments of donors' money to the field sources, including Field Source 9. Employee 2 was also, you ready for this? in a romantic relationship with Field Source 9. During this relationship, employee 2, that's of SPLC, and Field Source 9 shared a house and 2 bank accounts. Between 2015 and 2021, approximately $140,000 in donors' money flowed through SPLC operating account through the Tech Writers account and was ultimately deposited into the joint bank account held by F, Field Source 9, and employee number 2. This amounted to approximately 66% of all money ever deposited into their joint bank accounts. Employee number 2 then used donors' money to pay the couple's personal living expenses. This would be a great movie. SPLC secretly paid Field Source 30 more than $70,000 in donor money. Field Source 30 led the National Socialist Party of America. He was a member of the Ku Klux Klan and was the leader of a faction of the Aryan Nation that had chapters in approximately 17 states. In approximately 2010, out of money and seeking to get out of white nationalist movement, Field Source 30 reached out to the SPLC unsolicited and discussed a plan to leave the movement. Thereafter, SPLC employee offered Field Source 30 a monthly salary of approximately $2,500. That's not bad for 2010. In addition to payment of expenses to continue to lead and maintain the violent extremist organization. Field Source 30 told the SPLC employee he wanted to leave. Thereafter, an SPLC employee provided Bank 2 with documentations identifying Field Source 30 as a rare books employee. Based on this material of false representation, Field Source 30 was issued a rare books employee pay card. From approximately 2010 through 2026, SPLC secretly moved over $70,000 in donors' money from the SPLC operating account through the CIA account to the Rare Books account and onto Field Source 30's pay card. Field Source 30 also received some donors' money via automated clearinghouse. That's called an ACH transfer. That's a direct bank-to-bank transfer. You don't get a check, it goes immediately bank to bank. Field Source 30 used donors' money to, among other things, travel to extremist rallies, host extremist rallies, donate money to leaders of other extremist organizations, recruit new members into his extremist organization, publish racist and extremist material for the purpose of recruiting new members both inside and outside of prison, and create racist paraphernalia to sell at rallies to raise money for his extremist organization. This was known to certain SPLC employees as they continued to secretly funnel donors' money to Field Source 30. During the same period, the SPLC was secretly using donors' money to fund Field Source 30 extremist activities. The SPLC had an entire extremist file web page dedicated to Field Source 30. The SPLC used this extremist file webpage to solicit more public donations. At one point, this is funny, Field Source 30 asked an SPLC employee to soften the language about him on his extremist file webpage so that it would not scare off new members from joining his extremist organization. The SPLC employee agreed and changed the language on the SPLC's extremist file webpage for Field Source 30. SPLC secretly paid Field Source 31 and 32 donors' money to stay in the movement. Field Source 31 and 32 were members of the Ku Klux Klan organization in their area. In and about 2010, Field Source 31 and 32 feared for their safety from other Klan members and wanted out of the movement. Field Source 32 had seen media coverage about how the SPLC helped an individual leave an extremist organization and how the SPLC paid for this individual's tattoo removals. The media coverage prompted Field Source 32 to reach out to SPLC unsolicited and ask the SPLC for help to get Field Source 31 and 32 out of the movement. An SPLC employee invited Field Source 31 and 32 to Montgomery, Alabama for a meeting. There, despite their request to help getting out of the movement, an SPLC employee encouraged Field Source 31 and 32 to stay in the movement and offered to pay them $1,200 monthly salary as well as to pay for expenses incurred. Once they financially backed by the SPLC to do so, Field Source 31 and 32 agreed to remain in the movement. Thereafter, an SPLC employee provided Bank 2 with documentation identifying Field Source 32 as a Rare Books employee. Based on this material false representation, Field Source 32 was issued a Rare Books employee pay card. An SPLC employee told Field Source 31 and 32 that if anyone asked where the money came from, they were to say that they worked for Rare Books and that their job was to help college students, I'm laughing now, research and write essays. The SPLC told them that this was for their own safety. Neither Field Source 31 or 32 ever researched or wrote any essays for any students, college or otherwise. Although the SPLC employee claimed Field Source 31 and 32 needed to be paid as Rare Books employees for their safety, donors' money paid to them from the SPLC operating account, through the CIA account, through the Rare Books account, and onto the pay card resulted in Field Source 31 and 32 being put in the type of dangerous situation that Field Source 32 sought SPLC's help to get away from in the first place. Using donors' money, Field Source 31 and 32 attended extremist group rallies in multiple states. This led to Field Source 31 rising from merely a group member in a leadership role within an extremist group. In the new leadership role, Field Source 31 actively recruited new members using donor money. Field Source 32 also participated in recruiting new members and using donors' money. In addition, an SPLC employee knew that Field Source 32 used donors' money to purchase material to make Ku Klux Klan garments for other people. Field Source 31 and 32 were reimbursed by the SPLC with donor money for all expenses they incurred for cross-burning events, to include the wood and the fuel. SPLC secretly paid Field Source 42 more than $155,000 in donors' money. Field Source 42 was the former chairman of the neo-Nazi organization National Alliance. Between 2016 and 23, SPLC secretly paid Field Source 42 more than $155,000 in donors' money. Donors' money moved from SPLC operating account to the CIA account, and then checks were issued out of the CIA account to Field Source 42. In addition, Field Source 42 received ACH payments directly out of the CIA bank account, as well as masked ACH payments from the SPLC operating account in Bank Number 1. This, again, the CIA is a made-up name. During the same period, the SPLC was secretly paying Field Source 42 with donors' money. SPLC also featured Field Source 42 on its extremist file webpage. The SPLC solicited public donations to stop extremists generally and specifically Field Source 42. At the exact same time, the SPLC was secretly using prior donors' money to pay Field Source 42. Next, SPLC secretly paid Field Source 37 more than $300,000 in donors' money. Field Source 37 was not involved in an extremist organization before Field Source 37 reached out to the SPLC seeking employment. He wanted a job with them. While receiving payment by the SPLC, Field Source 37 made multiple racist posts on social media accounts under the supervision of the SPLC employee number 3. In 2017, Field Source 37 was a member of the online leadership chat group that helped plan the Unite Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. SPLC employee 3 directed Field Source 37 to attend this event, in which 1 woman and 2 law enforcement officers were tragically killed. The SPLC extensively covered the Unite the Right rally on its various media platforms, both at the time of the rally and the following years. Unite the Right rally led to a massive fundraising windfall for the SPLC. with media reporting that the SPLC more than doubled their previous year's reporting revenue for private and corporate donations. Between 2014 and 23, SPLC secretly paid Field Source 37 over $300,000 in donors' money. And he was paid through Rare Books. He was a Rare Books employee. SPLC secretly paid Field Source 27. I'm almost done with these people. $350,000. He was an officer of the National Socialist Movement and the Aryan Nation, affiliated with the Statistic Souls Motorcycle Club. Between 2014 and 20, SPLC secretly paid Field Source 27 more than $350,000 in donors' money. This money flowed from SPLC's operating account through the CIA account to the Rare Books account, and finally onto a pay card issued to Field Source 27 under the false pretense that Field Source 27 was a Rare Books employee. Field Source 27 also received payments via masked ACH transfers under the monikers Rare Books from the SPLC operating account in Bank 1, and checks from Fox Photography through Bank Number 1. So, SPLC is being charged with wire fraud. This is a felony. False statements to a federally insured bank. One or more SPLC employees opened bank accounts for CIA, Fox Photography, you get it, all of those bogus accounts. The purpose of opening these bank accounts for the fictitious entities was to be able to conduct financial transactions that made it appear as if the field sources are receiving money from fictitious entities rather than receiving donors' money from the SPLC. So what happened? In 2020, the bank conducted an internal investigation into all of these accounts. In response to the internal investigations, the president and chief executive officer of the SPLC, as well as the board chair of the SPLC, admitted that pursuant to the discussion we had earlier with the bank, please let this correspondence serve as confirmation that the accounts listed below were open for the benefit of the Southern Poverty Law Center operations and operated under the center's authority. So they admitted all these bogus accounts were theirs. Another charge in the indictment, money laundering. So they're being charged with all of these things. Specifically from in or about August 20 and continuing through in or about August 2023, SPLC used the ACH system. This is a direct deposit to pay field sources with donating funds. These ACH payments were masked with monikers such as Rare Books, Research. The masked ACH transactions were designed to conceal the true nature, source, ownership, and control of the native funds the SPLC was paying to the field sources. So what the government wants now is, as I mentioned in a previous podcast, they want forfeiture. That means they just don't want the 4.1 million. Who knows, there may be more superseding indictments. They want to go after all of their assets. And as I mentioned before, the only possible defense that the SPLC could have is, well, we didn't do anything wrong, or the government is out to get us. So I hope everybody understands what forfeiture is. Now, it is my opinion that there may be more superseding indictments of the various individuals that are associated, that are employees or CEOs or CFOs of the Southern Poverty Law Center. So that is bringing everyone up to date on the superseding indictment and the fact that you could not even make a movie out of this. I mean, you could, but it would be hard to believe. It's outrageous. All right. So, this is my podcast. Conversations with Dr. S. the Legend. Look me up. Google, Apple, everywhere. You want to get in touch with me, it's drsthelegend@gmail.com. Here we go. Got that? Good. And based on previous podcasts, we had these beautiful paintings, Western scenes, rodeo scenes, cowboy scenes. These are all available for viewing and purchase at this website. Here we go, pbensenior.com. We all like the West and the cowboys and the rodeos. All right, this is Dr. S. the Legend signing off.